Never know when it's going to go live, you know? We're live and I think I'm delayed and I look like I got braces on today. So, hi, Brian.
Lynn.
Brian, did you put yourself in a witness protection program again?
How did you know?
I don't know. You wanted to
It's
talk about something
actually
about complacency and integrity. So, I don't know.
nobody around. Where am I?
I don't know, but I'm super excited today because today we got somebody that he likes to celebrate everything. He likes to celebrate everything, and this guy's like everywhere. He's like in all these different shows and everything. So we are super blessed to be here. So I'm Lynn Serrano.
And I'm Brian Kelm.
Yeah, so we're gonna be right back after this. And we've got the one and only Rex Sikes with us.
Indeed, you have.
Welcome, welcome, Rex. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, great to be with both of you.
And can I just say how great it was for us to be all together in Wisconsin?
That was fun.
That was just.
I hate it when I dissemble myself and I'm lying in bits and pieces all over the place. So being together is good.
Oh my gosh. And I got to take a minute to say that Brian's so devoted to this group, our show, and we did take his birthday off last week, and so happy belated birthday, and we so love you. And
Thank
we
you.
want to acknowledge today is September 11th, and so just take a moment for that, and also to say that it should remind us that every day, every moment, we should celebrate being here, especially when we got Rex Sikes here.
Indeed.
Right? We are so blessed. And we always take him, we take things for granted. Always. And we shouldn't do that. So Mr. Co-host, I'd like you to, because you're always great at just opening these things up. So I'm gonna give the floor to you.
Well, this having Rex on our show, I mean, we could talk about anything. Initially, I was like, okay, let's continue the discussion about customer experience because I know we got into that and it's an ongoing thing the way our world is. But being down here in South Carolina, you can go out and eat meals every day, and that's really not my jam. So we requested the help, from some pickup services and stuff like that, and somebody dropped the ball, and it was amazing because nobody wanted to take ownership of it, and I'm like, wow, how cool would it be to talk about that competency and integrity, because it's everywhere. And if you're not seeing it, you're probably not looking too hard because it's everywhere, or lack thereof is everywhere.
Well, I get that. And I get that my camera's acting all funky. So there we go. So, so Rex, you want to chime in on that? And
I thought that was perfect. What?
All right.
I mean, it was just amazing because nobody wanted to take ownership of. I mean, literally, when the guy brought the groceries, he's like, "Yeah." He goes, "I know that these are Mary Kay's here. Thanks for being here, Mary." Is the guy's like, "Yeah, I know I'm not giving you the right order, but here you go. So you got some free groceries." And the guy made it appear on the back end that it was so easy just to go in the app and say you didn't get the right stuff and whatnot. And here it turned into a 3-hour thing, that we didn't anticipate. You buy something, you pay for it, and you'd hope that, what is delivered is what you ask for, and it was far from that. And the automated systems are complete garbage these days. There's a lot of business experts that talk about, to expediting processes, but also though like cutting expenses and having an automated system, complete garbage. A lot of these companies pride themselves on that, but it's complete freaking garbage. It's all marketing. There's nothing about what they do on the back end that helps the customer, and that's so unfortunate, especially if you need something.
I think I can agree with that. I went and did a pickup order at Walmart, and I've noticed that when I do pick up orders at Walmart, if they're substitutions and I decide I don't want them, and I've looked at my receipt, guess what? I've been charged, but they haven't credited me back for those items.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So you got to be careful about that. And so this time I decided I didn't want these, and it was like it was a big difference in price and stuff, and I'm going to make sure that I didn't get charged for
Right.
the substitutions. So yeah, sometimes, and there are, there's certain things you shouldn't do because they never work out, like having them pick out your produce and things like that. You get,
Well, and it's like, obviously you're at the mercy of who's going to do it, but it's like when you're on vacation or when you're away, I mean, time is of the essence, and you want to be able to do other things. You want to have to be managing if you got the right stuff, or if somebody's just incompetent where they don't really care, and that really stuck with me for this conversation. And it was an idea that brought to the surface just because it upset me quite a bit, because I'm like, nobody want to take ownership. Nobody want to answer the phone. And I'm like, this is complete ridiculous, that, and in the future, it's like, I'm not going to give my money to you.
Well,
you wasted 3 hours of my time,
I think it's easy enough said, and some people obviously will agree and others will disagree, but a lot of it's by design. I mean, the phone tree about get people to hang up instead of actually serving them to get to the right department. And even today, the very first thing is, well, our menu may have changed, so be sure to listen to everything, and none of it's relevant to anything. So but customer service. I mean, when you look at what corporations have done, the CEOs have massive salaries. The rest of the public, the people who make the CEOs very wealthy, get nothing. They do all these big stock buybacks. So I don't really think they give a crap about the consumer or the customer or delivering value or anything. And now that everything is kind of subscription based and or downloadable or streaming, you're kind of at the mercy of the corporations, because they either shut your stream off or they shut your CDs or your music off or whatever. I mean, you don't own anything anymore.
Right.
So what you do own, though, is your time and your thinking and your ability to respond or react. And the key is, if you know that crap is going to happen, you can spend the rest of our life. We would spend the rest of our lives angry. So it's what can we do in spite of it when it's going on to understand that it is what it is, and to make the best of it, and hopefully not, and I would like to say not have it happen again, but it's likely to happen again and again in various circumstances and scenarios, until there's a transformation in the minds of the people who are kind of running things, to say, you know what, we really need to treat people better. But they don't. They try and take away everything they can from the little people and pass it all up to the upstairs people, because I don't think they care whether little people are here or not. There's a point at which, the money works for themselves. They don't really need customers anymore.
Right.
And as long as that's the case, then we're in a kind of dire circumstance. But if they actually needed you and me like they used to, and Lynn, I mean, all of us people, then things would change. So until the public, we're not going to do it.
Rex, I also think too, it's very important for people to recognize that the more people that got their hand in the cookie jar, so to speak, meaning that the bigger the company, the more complex it is, the more convoluted it is, right? Because everybody's got a different view, how many people actually are in decision making versus just following the leader type of stuff. And you see it on the back end where it's like, wow, this is really, really complex, and it doesn't need to be, right?
Well,
where it's like for help.
And I think they do that intentionally. I mean, I think there's an element of it, whether it's nefarious or not. I don't know that I would assign, that meaning to it, but it could be.
Right.
But, again, one of the things that was clearly or very obvious when COVID hit and the airlines and other people wanted bailouts, going, we're going to falter if our employees don't show up and take care of the day-to-day activities. Our pilots and our ticket attendants and our people working the tarmacs and the baggage handlers don't show up, we're going to be in trouble. Well, that should have alerted them to the fact that you ought to pay all those people a living wage and be really grateful there are worker bees, because that's why you get the big bucks. You don't get the big bucks because you're worth it. You get the big bucks because somehow that's how it's been decided. It's kind of like, we have representatives in government, but they call themselves leader and they vote themselves pay raises and vacations. That's not really leadership. That's really, gaming the system, whatever side of the aisle you're on.
Right.
Well, how about if we turn everything around and say this as far as ownership and all this stuff. How about the fact that it gets to the point that we have to realize, okay, let's not put ourselves in a position to be upset. And next time there won't be a next time because we won't use that service.
Right.
We're going to have to say, okay, because there is a problem. Well, we don't want that problem again. We're going to have to say, that was our experience. We're not going to go there. We're not going to be a part of that. We're going to have to make provisions. And I mean, because we do try to do the convenience, like we got used to having our carrots cut and our apples sliced. Well, sometimes we're going to have to go get the bag of apples and slice them along the way or do whatever, that convenience. We got so used to the convenience, and then we bitch and moan when it's not right, So, I mean, it just, the old school way sometimes is the best way,
that is why it requires people to wake up and to understand that the more that you rely on technology or AI or on other people to serve you, the less power you actually have to determine your own life.
Yeah.
So the only thing that you do have power over right now is your thought and how you respond or react to the situations around you. And if you say, I'm not going to play anymore, and you go to the next place and they do the same thing in the next place and they do the same thing in the next place and they go to the same thing, it's pretty hard to remove yourself from that system unless you and others go, you know what? If they're going to play that way, we're going to play the consciousness game. We're going to create a conscious company and we're going to grow it as big as your company, but we're going to do it through service and through value and through love and through compassion and through kindness and through helping the people instead of preying on the people and taking the last dime and penny and nickel from the widows and widowers who have nothing.
Right. Well, and that's the thing, I mean, it's more compassion to see people come in and know that human beings are serving you, and it's going to take time. That's why there's a long line as opposed to, the self checkouts. People get mad at their self checkouts now, but they also bitched when there was a long line when the cashier was helping you. So which way do you want it, people? Right. Think about that. It's just like we're so ungrateful about things, but then you bitch and moan when your aunt dies. You bitched when she was alive, and you're bitched because she's gone now. Right. Make up your mind, people.
They don't pay me enough to check out.
Mary says, I love that, Rex. You're so right. Actual service is the key. And I think also, too, is that this brings up for me an understanding of like, okay, maybe wherever I'm at, like whatever the popular grocery store is or wherever, give them some business, right? Like a small place that takes pride in what they do, but they serve the local neighborhood community, right? Because what's your time worth? And it's like 3 hours of my time I'm never going to get back because of being on the phone versus having it done right. And it's like, okay, cool. This place is great. May I have paid a little bit more? Sure. But it's like, I guarantee my time in terms of dollars trumps the time that I can be doing other things on vacation.
So I think it was 2012. It might have been 11. It might have been 13. I don't really remember. But I went in on my birthday and bought a phone for myself going, oh, this is going to be cool. I bought one for my son. So I was buying one for me. I went in at 10 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the evening, I got out of there. The person who was working it did something, said, oh, I've screwed it up. And it took them all in the entire day of me standing at this counter because I had paid for the phone. They weren't about to refund it. They were trying to make it work. And so they had to go to the back tech and this, that, and wait for something. And I spent my entire birthday standing at this counter trying to get a phone. Now, that, again, attitude, determines everything. It could have been the worst experience I've ever had. It wasn't, but that was up to me. In other words, they weren't doing anything to make it easier or better. I think they were honestly trying to get my phone working and couldn't figure it out, and send me on my way. But it took, as many hours as it did on a day that for me, in theory, is significant. But, ultimately I got the phone and I'm like, hooray, because I had spent all those hours there. It was like, what am I going to do? Am I going to sit here and complain and swear and be the angry customer on the other side of the counter for the entire day?
Right.
So it's also very much up to each of us. I'm not saying that however a person reacts isn't the way that, it is what it is. So And I might have reacted differently too, but at that moment, it became clear to me that I wasn't getting out of there, and being angry wasn't going to get me out of there any quicker.
Right.
So,
well, I think too is that how we're being programmed as human beings. It's like imagine like if every situation was simple, somebody took ownership. If somebody screwed up, they manned up plus the 1+1 philosophy, right? So they not only make it right, but they also do one other thing right in that very moment to blow you away, right? It's that kind of, the reason why I say the programming is because we're conditioned, because we hear about all these different things, to actually have something was like, wow, I'm taking ownership of this. I screwed up. I remember when there's a big company out there that everybody gets deliveries of every day. I'm not going to say the name, but I'm sure you can guess, and we probably have subscriptions for them. But it was like, I remember a story where they, when downloading and streaming was beginning to be popular, they have technology on the back end that if they sense when somebody's downloading a movie, if the stream is buffering or if it's going slow, they'll send you a refund, on their end, even before you probably watch the movie. Now, will that make you want to buy from them again? Absolutely. Yeah. But they're taking ownership of it. Yeah. How simple can we make these experiences, not only for ourselves, but for our customers? And I think that that's always a question that we can look at.
That's a beautiful example. I go through this all the time with my internet service going down, and then I have to call, and then I have to say, well, will you credit me? Because if you don't say credit me, they aren't going to credit you. And then they credit you like 4 cents, because it went down for a day, and they go, well, break it down to how much you're paying for the month. And, it just, so it could be very frustrating. But the thing that I'm always reminded of is, the gladiators didn't go, oh, wow, I broke a nail, so, I'm not going to do my sword battle. We were an agrarian society where people would get up in the daytime and they have to go move boulders out of the field in order to be able to till the soil so that they could plant, and if a wind came and blew their hut down or something, they had to, either rebuild it. And so, we've become so accustomed to service and convenience and quick and fast that hardship for us is like, so most people don't even know how to handle it. Watch people when they go to a mall. They always lock one door, right? So you go to the door and you go to the locked door and they go, and they keep getting angry until they finally go, oh my God, it's the other door. And then they go through it.
And now Facebook.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
It's funny because
you mentioned Facebook or Elon Musk and things go haywire.
Oh yeah.
I didn't say Mark, but I said Musk because it's
even my daughters, they all have been waitresses at one point. And I remember when I was pregnant with my daughter, I was a hostess at IHOP for a quick New York minute, just a quick New York minute. And they were like, Lynn, do you want to take an order? I'm like, yeah, sure. And I was like, and these girls at IHOP back in the days, and this was back in 1980 something. And I'm telling you, the cook would cook things, but there was the waitresses that actually had to put everything on the plates and make it look pretty and stuff. I'm like, no, that's when I had the appreciation of what it took for a real waitress to put everything and get everything together. And if anybody had to take an order, or even when I work at the hotel and you're taking a reservation and they're saying their names and they're doing all this real fast. But then I realized some people are so fast, and being dyslexic and trying to get people's names right and stuff is something. But I always found it was so funny because they'd go real fast and I go, you want that confirmation number? And I go 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And they're like, what? And I was like, I was just speaking back at the same tone they are. And it's like, it's a little hard sometimes, isn't it? So what I'm saying is mirroring somebody else and trying to do it the way they do. If for one moment, take and put yourself in their shoes and see it from a different perspective, you finally get appreciation that things aren't as easy on the other side. And you don't even know what they're going through day in, day out to do what they have to do for the public. So sometimes, just a little kindness would go a long way.
Well, also, though, I think to go along with that is that anything involving hospitality, we also have to look at the frontline workers are only as good as how they were trained or
Absolutely.
not trained. And I think a lot of people just want to blast people And don't get me wrong, it might be there because you're in a bad state of mind, or you got to get going, or somebody just whatever. It just multiplies throughout your day. But we also need to be reminded of, like, if they're not being trained properly, which is more common than not, because it's quick, easy. We need to get people out there because of the labor shortage. You really can't blame them, because if they haven't been trained, that's not on them. Unfortunately, though, they are the frontline workers, so therefore they're the face of the company, and they just happen to be your server that day if it's a restaurant situation.
Yeah.
So, there's a couple of important things. One is this: we all fall back to the level of our training or our conditioning in our everyday life. We go, I'm meditating and this and the other thing, and then somebody gives you the finger on the car and you go, gosh damn, you motherfucker. We revert to what our conditioning is until we change our conditioning. So the same thing is true of every person who's trained in business or, to work. They're gonna fall to the lowest standard if the standard of training wasn't very high. That's what they're gonna rely on. So we need to understand that we train ourselves to get better than the default setting, and that's what personal development or, what self-help in theory is about, so that we don't keep perpetuating the problems. But industry doesn't seem to understand that yet, that if they want better, because whenever anything happens, the first thing that get cut is training, usually, and education and development, and anything that has to do with customer service or people skills or anything. But there's another point, and that is I train people how I want to be treated. Two, I mean, that's also important. You as the person, the consumer, the customer, the client, can demonstrate what it's like to be the kind of person that you want them to be. I, for example, always thought, food server can really mess up my food if I'm nasty to them.
Yeah.
And not only a food server, but the order taker at a drive-through can mess with your stuff before you get it. You never know, especially when things are handed to you and stuff and everything. I want everyone to feel really good about the fact that I'm there. And there have been times I've been in a restaurant or something. I had my head up my, the rectal canal, and I didn't treat somebody the way I had hoped I would, or, I got picky about something or whatever, and it ain't worth it. And I've never been a food server. And by the way, I've never gotten down on my knees and put shoes on someone either. And yet, when I go into a shoe store right now, I go, where the heck are the people that help me with the shoes? I don't want self-service shoes. I don't want to go through all the boxes and everything. I'll try and find them for myself. I preferred it when somebody came in and they measured my foot. They treated me nice.
Al Bundy.
Yeah, Al Bundy. But for all of the people who serve us, whether it's a baggage handler, it's the cab driver or the Uber driver or the baggage handler, or somebody pushing your wheelchair, whatever it is, the better that you can treat them, because they're serving you. And think about what they get all day long. They're doing their thing, repetitively, and they either get tipped or they get stiffed or they get treated nasty by people who jump into their cars or whatever and don't give them any time of day, or they yell at them that their food orders, you got to train people. You got to, be the example of the service that you want back. And then you have a better chance of getting that service and being memorable. Because when I go back into that restaurant, I want them to go, wow, he's back. We like serving this guy, as opposed to,
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting you said that, Rex, and thank you for sharing it, because I remember being in Charleston like 6 weeks ago for my mastermind, and we got into this fascinating conversation with one of our drivers, and the things that he was doing was above and beyond. Like, he had actual like printed out sheets of places to go, in the area. And I'm like, you know what? Like, you could really own this market. And he looked at me, because he only served the airport, the Charleston airport, and some other places. There was definite places that he did not go because it's unsafe, or he didn't like the people, or whatever. But it was like I said, you really want to blow up what you're doing, consider these following things. And I shared with him just the little things. He had waters in the side for everybody, right? He had a garbage can, he had a fresh paper. And I'm like, you're doing amazing things. Keep it up. And plus he had personalized business cards. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Because yesterday and the day before, our Uber drivers, they were very they didn't even get out of the vehicle. They pretty much confirm a name and that's it. And there's just really no interaction. It's like they're going through the motions. And I'm like, well, then, okay, I get it. You're doing that for whatever you're doing it for, extra money or what have you. But it's like the ones that really stand out are just by the simple things. It does not have to involve any money.
They'll get the extra money.
Oh, yeah.
Correct.
Oh,
but
yeah.
then they'll also be the type of person that's called for over and over again. Like we've already said it, the one guy where he even stopped at a liquor store. Like he you know, because we didn't know, like, how would he charge us for this? And he goes, don't worry about it. I do it all the time. I'd rather make your stay really easy than to be a pain in the butt where you call me up and I'm sitting there at the liquor store. And then he goes, I would just rather do it and make sure you have a great stay and take all the guesswork out of it. And I'm like, thank you. You know, and he got a $20 tip.
Yeah. Well, some people are smart and they understand. But that's also why Napoleon Hill said the person who goes the extra mile or shows up early and stays late, who does things beyond what is expected of them, will always be the person who rises to the top. And, you know, now today, you know, not everybody is acknowledged or rewarded, but that's also something that, you know, some people, in fact, most people, but some people will do more for recognition than they would for money.
Right.
So if you can acknowledge them and praise them and compliment them and tell them how wonderful they are, you know, I mean, that's why they do recognition awards and things in businesses and everything else. Well, so-and-so did such and such, and this person did that, and this person is a salesperson of the year or whatever. I mean, there's a reason for that, because people will oftentimes do more just for that kind of acknowledgement, especially in today's day and age where people don't get acknowledged much.
Right. Well, in Uber, because I'm an Uber driver and stuff, and I've gotten a lot of acknowledgement. But the Uber does have apps, or they have where they can compliment you for being great conversationist, having the best, you know, condiments and different things. I mean, it's, you know, I've got everything except having a cool car. I don't have a cool car, so I didn't get that. But there's a lot of badges and stuff that are cool to, you know, best music and best this and best. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So
can I share one more story?
Sure.
It was years ago. It was in the 70s, maybe 1980 something. Sitting at a pizza place next to one of my favorite restaurants with a friend of mine. And in watch these three guys were sitting at the counter, and these three guys sit down right next to us. And one's from Ireland, two of them are from England. And they're like, "Wait, what should we do in Los Angeles?" And I go, "I don't know. We live here. We don't know what to do in LA. Why would, you know?" But what we did was we got a piece of paper and we said, well, you could go to the La Brea Tar Pits, you could go to Universal, you could try Disneyland. Oh, go down here, you know, see this site, go to Alvar, you know, go to this street for the shopping. And we created this list and we gave it to him, and we kind of hung out and, you know, had, you know, our pizza or whatever. Parted ways, never saw him again. About a year later, I'm at the beach. I'm driving. It's nighttime, and I stop in at it was no longer there, but it was a discotheque at the time, so it must have been close to the 80s. And I stopped in, and as I walk in, this guy goes, "Are you Rex Sikes?" And I was like, "Yeah, why?" He goes, "Well, I've known you for, you know, we went to high school together. I was behind you in high school." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, really? Oh my God." He'd become a bodybuilder. I wouldn't have recognized him at all, but he went from being this scrawny little guy to this big bodybuilder. "Well, let me introduce you to my fiance," you know, and she was a bodybuilder. And I was like, "Wow, holy cow. Okay, cool." And I go into the discotheque. I'm there for a while. I'm by myself, and I see this just stunning woman, you know, and the lights are flashing on. I just look. I gotta get a closer look at this woman. And I walk up, and there's some guy with his back to me talking, and I'm standing, you know, maybe 10 feet away looking at her. And the guy, she kind of looks like this, and the guy turns around and goes, "Oh my God!" And I'm like, "What?" He goes, "I just got into the country today." And I'm like, he goes, "A year ago, you were in a restaurant. You gave me a list of what we should do. And I came back today, and here you are again." I'm like, "Well, I didn't plan this. I didn't know you were coming to town." But I mean, you know what I'm saying? And the reason why I say that is because you never know. And he remembered this act of kindness and, you know, is joking at me that, "Oh my God, here you are." And, you know, but who would have thought that a year later I run into the same guy? Now, had I drove down this beach, I stopped in at the last moment. I hadn't intended, I wasn't planning. I went into a guy that I knew from high school, but and then see this guy. I mean, very kind of magical, mystical, weird kind of, you know, night. but you will run into the person who you love or the person who you hate. So, beware of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Love that.
And that happens to me, frankly, it happens to me all the time, but
I love it. I love it. So Brian, anything you want to say in closing? This has been great. Yeah.
Just whether you're a customer or whether you're a service provider is take the long cut, right? Do it for other people, especially now in this day and age where everybody wants instant gratification. And obviously we're programmed to see it because of services and subscriptions, right? But take the long cut, right? Trust your heart. Look in, right? If you don't know what's in there or whatever, listen and feel, because the long cut, one of my mentors infused 3 questions into me that I still live with today. Number 1 is, how hard are you willing to work? Number 2, how fast do you want to get there? And number 3 is, how good do you want to be? So how hard do you want to work? How fast do you want to get there? And how good do you want to be? If you take on those 3 questions, there will a lot to be a discovery in it, but also though the biggest thing it will tell you is you're either in this for the long haul, because development comes over time, in incremental little ways over time. It doesn't come all at once. And I think that it disrupts that whole paradigm of people that want it now versus people that are willing to do it day in and day out. And then eventually they will get the reward, not only internally, but externally. That's what I get.
And Mr. Rex?
Well, again, it just goes back to, the world is an amazing place, and hardship isn't the worst thing that's ever happened to us. Some people were much more accustomed to it years ago, and we've done everything we can to become convenient and have all these luxuries and everything else, and it's made us somewhat lazy and somewhat sloppy. But in terms of ourselves, I mean, people don't remember phone numbers anymore, or addresses, or dates, or times, or anything, because they rely on their phones. I suggest that instead of relying on people to serve us the way we hope to be served, serve them the way they might want to be served and the way we might want to be served. And remember that in every moment you have a choice of dog crap or diamonds, and choose the diamonds, and don't let the dog crap, ruin your day. But if it does, you can claim it back anyway. I mean, in other words, things happen and people get, the wind knocked out of their sails. So you have enough, as long as you're alive, you got another chance to do something to make yourself feel better, and in general, the more that you can contribute to the world and the people around you, and the more that you can make people feel better, because even if people are treating us crappy, if we could put a smile on someone else's face, that makes a difference by the end of our day.
I want to share one more thing. Can I share one more thing?
Yeah,
Lynn?
Absolutely.
Hey,
wait a second. You're taking time being in Myrtle Beach to be here with us, and we're honored for that, Brian, and thank you for that. So by all means, sir, you have the floor.
Well, I got 2 amazing people. Rex, you trigger something, because like for me, the use of language and like contributing to others is that when you're contributing to others, you don't know where it's going to go. You don't know where it's going to take you, but your heart is gravitating you to where it needs to be. Now, people might not understand it, but over the course of time, you keep doing it for nothing other than to do it. That touches my heart, because it's like some of us are visionaries, some of us can see what something can be, and we're going to do everything we can for it. And if people want to be along in that journey, great. If they're skeptical, that happens too. But it's not like we're forcing or trying to convince anybody of anything. They're just harmonizing with whatever it is. But just because somebody doesn't understand or we're not connected to them doesn't mean our journey stops, in terms of how we contribute to people, because we're not expecting any measurement of any kind. So I just had to add to it, because contributing to other people is something that I hold very near and dear to my heart.
Listen, people, please rewind and listen to that again. Brian is an epitome of this, because he is in Myrtle Beach. He has places to go, things to do, people to see, and he's here with us when he could have said, Lynn, I can't do the show today. So, Brian, I love you. This is who you are to the core. Your integrity of to show up and to be here, it just drops the mic and it leaves it right there on the floor. I love you so much. I respect you so much. And so next time, for you not to have anything to bitch about, don't use that service. You'll be much more happier. And I've got to say this because I know we're way over time, but seriously, it goes to show you that new technology is great and it's fast. I use it. I'm all for it. I am a Gen X, but I will tell you this. Sometimes don't knock out. And I've had a great conversation with a youngster that's a freshman in college, and he enlightened me because he just thinks the new ways are the best ways, and he forgets that. And it's kind of sad to me too. And he's a friend on Facebook. I don't know if he'll watch this, but it's also sad to say that you forget old school ways are some of the damn good ways. And it's sad that these new kids, if they don't forget where it came from, I pray for this new generation that don't realize old school way and paper way sometimes better when the power goes out and when you got rely on things. When that shit don't work and you don't have hard copies, I love to see where you're going to be. Like you said, if you don't know your mama's phone number, well, mama, I couldn't call you because I didn't know your number. We're going to see where you're at then. That's my final note for that factor. Like, how, I don't know. You know how to ride a bike to get where you need to instead of your scooter if it got stolen? I don't know. Food for thought. Anyhow.
Well, your point, just as we close, and not to scare people, but to get people to start relying. If you don't own a book and you don't own a DVD or something that you can play it on, or piano or whatever, if everything is streamed, everything is electronic and it's in the cloud. Well, if there ever is a magnetic pulse or all the communications go down, you won't even have stuff to entertain yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gone. I mean, if the electricity goes out, you're going to have to sing songs and tell stories. But, when my Wi-Fi goes out, if everything is on, you can read my book.
But this is on Kindle, but I got my hard copy right here.
Me too.
I mean, there's something to be said about, I'm not pushing things, but you do sometimes need to make sure that you have stuff. Make a backup copy of all your phone numbers, in a notebook that you put in the safety deposit somewhere where you can get to it, so that if your phone is stolen or down or whatever, you can still reach your family.
It's just some true stuff that we have to take for granted, man. Because you know what? It ain't just humans that die. Cell phones do die. And so do your numbers and your contacts. And, you get virus, phones, hacks, and all that stuff. You don't got phone numbers, you're screwed. So
I can't tell you how many times I go to my phone and go, I'm going to call somebody and their number's no longer in my phone. I go, where did it go? It's been there for years. And then suddenly,
because Google's trying to back it up and eat it somewhere else. But anyways, maybe that's for a next show. Anyhow, it is going to be Halloween next month, and we got some scary, real stuff we can share. Anyways,
we have a bunch, Slim.
All right, you guys, love you. Thanks for being here, Rex. We really appreciate you. Have a good one, guys.
And the last piece.
What did you say? I don't want to miss it. What?
Well, I just said and keep your attitude up. Look up. In other words, let's not get morose about what's going on.
That's right. Love you guys.
Bye-bye.